Hello and welcome back to Red Fox Classics, where I'm sitting in front of a 1969 Mk2 GT6, and today we're going to do this very last bit of rust on the outside of the body. There's still some in here and on the bottom of the car, but this is the last outer panel that needs repairing. Yeah, somebody modifying, but last bit of rust repair on the outside. So it looks quite small, and I can actually see it. It's not huge. It's bigger than that. It's pitting behind there. But what I'm going to do is cut out probably across there to be able to get the inside of the wheel arch away, and then I'll repair this bit on the edge, repair this panel, and put the two back together. Now, I don't know how much of anything in this lip I'll be able to save, but let's find out. I'll get my PPE on and drop out some of this wheel arch. Right, got that bit out. It's deceptive, the blasting and priming, because everything obviously looks new and it's not. Anyway, inside of there is pretty grotty, so I will have to replace that edge. I mean, maybe I should actually try and like make the corner, don't know, blend it in. Anyway, future problem. First of all, gonna get that. Probably should have done this before I cut it off, but whatever. Get that clamped in place. Drill some holes so I can stick a little bit of sheet metal across with some clecos, pop that back where it came from. Then make an angled bit that follows this wheel arch line, and then we're going to be able to graft those two bits together in situ. Obviously, replacing all of that frilly bit. Then that can come out, and we replace more of this outer wheel arch section. So there's about that bit temporarily fixed in. I've bent myself an angle, which I will be taking to shrink a stretcher to curve it so it matches that shape, or at least the inside of that shape, which is why I didn't cut that lip off. And then I'll be able to sit it in here, pop that on, well, cut the frilly edges off of this, stick that in there and tack the two together, and then pull it out and weld it up off the car. So I've got this bit slightly nastily welded on. I just need to grind on the inside now, and it's definitely heavy. I'll keep the rear of the bonnet down. Anyway, that's on. Needs to clean up. Fits all right. I need to put a little chunk in that corner and obviously clean it up a bit. But we'll be able to get that sat in there, clecoed in there, and then start to build some other bits of this wheel arch. So that's finished and clecoed back in. It's This one did not quite sit where I thought it was going to. Anyway, I've just cut that little bit out of there because it's all pitted on the back as well, and put in a small repair section down there. And now I'm going to have to do this. Now this is actually much worse than it looks, because if you can see, there's pitting all the way up there, and there was pitting that runs further along here too. So I think what I'm going to do is make myself an L-shaped flange with a shrinker stretcher and fit it so I've got that curve and that curve on both faces, and then try and fit that in. Then I'll probably cut to make that line and insert an extra piece in there, and then I will either do the same down here, or I will try and flatten in the repair to the existing L-shaped bit I've just put in. I'm going to have to see, because I just don't quite know how it's going to work out. But at least if I make the curve of the wheel arch, then that's right. And fitting this in, maybe I can even steal some more of that wing if that helps. But the remainder of the wing doesn't have any. This bit had that flange. The rest is just cut and rusted off already. I still need to replace that flange, but its existence made it a bit easier to graft that section in. Anyway, I'll make something and see how it goes. Well, yesterday I made this, which will go in there, and probably going to have to remake a fair bit of this. I don't quite know how at the moment, but I figure I'll get that in because that's going to give me my, whatever, this section, and that's kind of fixed, and I've got the line to work to, and then I can try and massage some metal into the right shape to fill in that curve. So I'm going to get that tacked in. I've made it out of 1.2mm steel, so it's really quite heavy weight. But what that is going to let me do is overgrind it if I need to. I did the same here, so it makes it easier to make it flush when you can just grind away the outer surface, because I've got plenty of extra there available to let me do that. So I'm going to get that tacked and see what I can do next. Alright, so that's in. Obviously it's welded there because that's new metal. And I managed to weld just up to there, and looking on the back, it's, it wasn't particularly pitted. I've done a rough grind back, and it's all right. So it's at the all right stage. Now I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try and make that shallow bend to just match that. Then I'm going to stretch. So I'm going to, something too big. Then I'm going to stretch the edge there, and possibly the edge here, to try and be able to lay it flat against here, and then flatten out that end. So I'm going to, because I need a slight curve in this wheel arch, and need a slight curve in that wing. And anyway, I'll make the curve and then I'll flatten it out, try and fit it in that section. I'm still not sure if this is going to work. Oh, we'll have a go. So that actually seems to have worked. Well, at least to this stage. I just cut a rectangle of steel, and I bent it on that thing, to just bits of pipe to yank stuff around. And then I did a bit of shrink on that edge, stretch on that edge, and it just gave it a little bit of shape. and it sits quite nicely above here. So, seems alright. Rather than, obviously you can see this is sort of blending down into this edge, and I think what I'm going to do now is, so I've marked where this sits. I'm going to cut away more of the existing panel, so I'm trying to get a mark on the inside of this where I need to cut it away, and then I'll work on fitting that in. There's a little bit still here to fill in later, but that's fine. It's kind of, might even do that sort of triangle shape in there. But anyway, I was anticipating that. So let's see how that goes. So it doesn't look the prettiest right now, but this has actually worked surprisingly well. So the line up across there is really good, and there I'm going to have to remove that little chunk of, because it's quite pitted on the inside. Feels like there too, and that's all just welded up quite well. I did try and do it from the inside, but didn't get it quite right, so I had to do the outside too. But it'll grind back, and there's, as I said, there's plenty of extra thickness in this metal, so it should blend in quite nicely. But I am going to go and grind down all these little individual tacks, make sure the lineup's still there, and try and get that section as good as it can be. Obviously that was just two thick bits of metal welded together, so I'll be able to grind it back and kind of sculpt it in. That's going to be a tomorrow job for me, because it's quite late in the day, and well, yeah, here for a little bit. Well, I've been working away at this, and I think it's come out reasonably. So as I said, I used really thick metal here, so I could over grind into it, which has let me get that fairly smooth. It's still a little lumpy bumpy, but not, you know, nothing huge. And I think that edge has come out alright as well. See what it looks like with some primer on in a minute, because you know that's gonna make it easier to look at. But I'm going to close the bonnet and check that still looks alright, because you know I think it does, but we'll have to see. And then it will be on to letting this piece in. That line-up is still as it was, which is good. Obviously I've still got, there's too much gap here. I don't know, this feels like it's just got worse, but I don't think it has. That's just me. I'm going to do something about this. Now my thinking has been to modify the sill, but I didn't want to, if I had modified this wheel arch, I'd have ended up with the curve being different, which I didn't like the idea of. So I think I'm just going to try and pull the sill up, or cut through the sill and pull it up. But that's going to come, I'm going to do a pass on the whole car and fiddle with gaps like this once I've had the body off and back on and all that sort of thing. So let's get the inside of this fitted up, because that is okay, which is the thing I was worried about damaging, or changing, rather. So I've just been getting on here and getting this in. It's now welded, which was a bit of a pain, because I was standing and then sitting on the suspension turret to be able to get in here, and yeah, not the most easy thing to access. Anyway, I've gone through and I've spot welded all of that. There's obviously some bits of trimming needed, because that's poking out a bit, and grinding. That's all done, and I did a little replacement. It's just this bit here just rotted quite badly there, but everything else seemed fine. So that's done, and I started to cut away here. And I think I am going to have to. I think it's going to be easiest to do this, or at least hard to do this now, because otherwise I'll be, if I have the bonnet on the floor, I'll be looking up into this rather than down, even though I'll be able to stand more easily to the inside, it's still going to be better to do it now. So that's what I'll tackle next, and that's how that came out with primer on it. Which I'll have another go because it's a bit lumpy bumpy still, but the wheel arch I think has come out pretty well, and that was the bit I was most worried about. Well, this morning I've been climbing on the suspension again to do some grinding on the outside of here. I'm going to do some of this when the bonnet's on the other, you know, it's all the way up, because then I'll be able to get in there without being over my head. And I've trimmed that edge off and cleaned up all the frilly bits off of the edge of the wheel arch. Cut myself this piece I'm going to take to the shrink scruncher and fit in there as the start of repairing this wheel arch. Because I'm going to get that edge fitted and then build up to connect it to the remains of the wheel arch. Well, there is my piece. So I first made it fit that curve, and then went back and made it fit that curve, and then put it over that dolly there just to tip that lip over a little bit, because that wheel arch is going to curve around me here, so I need the curve on there to let me fill it in. Anyway, I'm going to get some rust, what do you call it, Genolite in there, and then some primer on everything, and so on and so forth, and then be able to start to get that fitted in. What I'll do is I'll tack it or weld it where I've got it touching, and then I'll probably do the bit at the bottom to fix the position, and then fill in the rest. Now this is where I've got to, which is impossible to see. So I got the bit you saw me make tacked in, or well, welded in up there, and then I've just been finding little bits of scrap and filling in the space between. It's maybe not the prettiest thing, but I don't see another way to get all these weird shapes, and it is the wheel arch. So it'll get ground back and it'll get covered in stone chip, and we'll never see it again. So I've got all this weld to do, get it all in properly, then just adding in those strips down there, and the wing's done, I think. Well, okay, it needs trimming. Those bits need doing. It's never done, is it? Anyway, it's not the easiest place to get to. The last bit on this wheel arch, I just popped a couple of strips in there as the outer lip, welded them, ground them, and then trimmed them down and spot welded them all along the edge. And that is this wing done. So we've got all that filled in, all that rebuilt, all the inner arch done, this bit of inner arch as well. The only thing left is fitting the D-plate, repairing those little things, yeah, because there's a hole behind here, and yeah, fitting the other bit, this bit here. But for that, I want the bonnet the other way up. No, and that repair, but yeah, you know what I mean. Anyway, I do want the bonnet the other way up for all those. And the last thing I'm going to do here is I'm just going to come in under the bonnet with a bit of, well, the remains of my rust remover. Because there's just a little bit pitting in there. But I'm not going to keep you here to watch that, because who wants to watch rust remover remove? not me. Plus it requires, you know, putting a little bit on, wire brushing it, going away again, and repeating. Anyway, that's this episode done. That's the outside, not entirely the outside of the car done. Still got something to do with one of the doors and the bonnet and the panel fit. Yeah, there's always more work, isn't there? Anyway, that's this done. Next thing we're going to be getting onto is fitting those new panels, the D-plate and whatever, the strengthening piece, and finishing the rust repair on the bonnet. After that, I've got to figure out how to mount this car on the rotisserie, or at least the body, and we'll start looking at the underside. So if you want to see any of that, please make sure you're subscribed. Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you next time.